Support for Juneau Afternoon comes from Heritage Coffee Roasting Company, providing Juneau with locally roasted coffee for over 40 years, with cafes and drive-through locations throughout Juneau. More at heritagecoffee.com. To Juneau for Friday, September 12th, 2025. I'm your host, Boston Christopher. Cheesh, Hawa, Tox Gnusum, Salamat. Thank you for joining the conversation. You can also join us via our live stream for a behind-the-scenes look here in the studio on our YouTube at ktoo.org/JPMLive or on KTOO's Instagram and Facebook pages. And feel free to leave us a comment. I might even see it here on the screen. Today, September is Recovery Month, and the Juneau Reentry Coalition is sponsoring a film fest, a picnic, and a collaborative trash pickup tomorrow. We talk with members of the coalition about these events that begin this weekend. And today, we begin with Turtle Blood. Specifically, the book titled What Turtle Blood Tastes Like. It's a debut book of poetry by Jonas Lamb, who you may know in various other different capacities as a KRNN DJ or as a librarian out at UAS. His poems have appeared in Tidal Echoes, The Kent Collector, Juneau's Poetry Omnibus, among others. And What Turtle Blood Tastes Like is his debut novel, as I said, and it was the recipient of the Jason Wenger Award for Literary Excellence. It launches today, and next Tuesday, September 16th, he, along with fellow writer Patty Ware, are teaming up for a book launch at Spice Cafe from 6 to 8 p.m. They will read from their work and be in discussion with moderator Katie Bosler. Gwyneth Cheesh, Ha'yugadi, thank you so much, Jonas, for coming in. It's a pleasure to see you. Wasiati, how are you doing on the day of the launch?
Oh, it's book birthday, Boston.
Book birthday,
pretty
cool.
Yeah, I think launch day or release day. A lot of emotion. It's been a long project. I was actually thinking about it, and most of the poems in this collection I wrote while I was doing my MFA program at University of Alaska Anchorage, and that was like 2015 through 2018.
Okay.
But there is at least one poem in this collection that I wrote before my first son was born, and I just sent him off to college. So there's an 18-year-old piece in here, which, has changed a lot over that time.
Okay, so you don't even look like 30 years old. How do you have an 18-year-old son?
The good thing it's radio.
Anyway, so you're talking about something you wrote before your son was born 18 years ago. So where did poetry begin as a form of expression for you as a youngster?
Yeah, I mean, for as long as I can remember, I've been writing. I think it didn't really evolve into poetry probably until I was maybe in high school or even later than that. But it's always been kind of a sanctuary for me, a place to just be with my thoughts or to reflect on kind of how I see the world, which I got to imagine is different than a lot of people see the world.
We all have our individuality, right, when we look at things, yeah.
Yeah, I like to say we're all weird in our own special way.
Yeah.
I do distinctly remember, though, I was writing these 15,000-word short stories in college.
Oh, wow.
That I really enjoyed writing them. They were probably terrible. And I remember a good friend, a writing friend of mine, she gave me a book of poetry by Octavio Paz, who's a Mexican poet. And it was bilingual, right? So it had the Spanish on one side and English on the other side. And I started reading these poems, and I thought, this guy's saying more in one page than I'm saying in 35 pages of this short fiction that I'm writing. And
right.
I think that really kind of opened up my eyes to like the power of poetry, just to kind of distill language and do a lot with more, or a lot with less.
A lot with less, like the economy of the
Absolutely.
amount of words. I mean, some poems are very long, obviously. There's ancient poems that are very long, but it is interesting to look at that art form and see how one can express themselves in such a short amount of time. And so you said that a lot of this you were writing during your MFA. Was your MFA in creative writing with an emphasis on poetry?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm interested in like how you learn the art form of poetry in a structured environment when it is also something that's coming from really your own individuality. And poetry, it seems to me, can kind of be anything. So what's that juxtaposition of the learning in college versus the art form as an individual?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for many years, you can't really learn this stuff, right? You don't need art form. And I would try to treat myself maybe like once a year. I'd sign up to take a workshop, or go to a event. I remember driving to Homer one of my first years here in Juneau, going from Haines to Homer to attend the Kachemak Bay Writers Conference, which is this incredible event that they put on out of UAA Homer every year. But it was like, I was always just trying to convince myself that you don't need to do a writing program. You don't need to pay for a Master of Fine Arts program. And eventually I just got to the point where, I had taken some great classes, just community classes, or attended, workshop, conference type events. And I'd learned so much from those just in that like condensed time, whether it was, 3 hours or it was something that I was doing, once a week for a couple of weeks. I say, who am I kidding? Like, I have so much to learn from people. And I also kind of just reframed the time in that program as, like, I'm buying myself time. I'm buying myself the time to take myself seriously, to take this work seriously and get it done, and really saw it as a way that the requirement for the program is you have to write, a critical essay and a creative thesis. So I figured I'd come out of the 3 years with a manuscript that would be pretty close to being, book ready or publication ready.
So that's what I was going to ask is like, where did this book come from? But basically it came from the impetus of being in this program, which maybe also is part of that, right? Because maybe before the program, you didn't think like, oh, I'm going to make an entire book per se, right? I'm just going to write a poem off, here and there or whatever. You don't think about, oh, I'm going to put it together as a collection. But the structure of school potentially gives you some freedom to figure out like what's going on, right? Which is kind of cool. And then you end up with a product like this.
Sure, yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of directions that people go into literature and into art, and I don't think there's any one right way, but this, it worked for me, though there was certainly, I got to give a lot of props to one of my advisors, Zach Rogow. He's an incredible poet and translator from California who I got to work with, and I think I called him or emailed him one day and said, hey, Zach, can we schedule a call so that you can, convince me not to drop out of this program because I'm completely freaking out and over my head, and he took that call, and it was really important. And I think a lot of the work in that program that the faculty contributed to is just like helping folks recognize that you're a writer. You believe you're a writer. This work's important to you. It's a part of who you are. This isn't just something that you're like dallying on the side. That you're committing to yourself. And they said, I think Sherry Simpson, who passed away a few years ago, incredible Alaskan nonfiction writer. She said, this is a 3-year program, and we are training you for a lifetime of your 4th year, when you're going to have to like maintain this practice outside of the confines of deadlines and assignments and that sort of thing.
Wow. You're listening to Juneau Afternoon. I'm Boston Christopher. I'm here with Jonas Lamb, whose debut book of poetry, What Turtle Blood Tastes Like, launches today. He'll be doing a book signing and book launch party at Spice Cafe next Tuesday, September 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. There'll be some reading of the work as well as discussion with moderator Katie Bosler. He'll also be there with Patty Ware, who has her own book that's being launched at the same time, right?
Yeah, so Patty is a Juneau-based poet who I've had the chance to run into kind of over the years. The Alaska writing community is incredibly welcoming and nurturing and small. Right, we run into each other all over the place. But she had a book out earlier this spring or summer on the same press, Finishing Line Press, and reached out to me and said, "Hey, let's do this." So
Yeah.
it was a great opportunity.
Her book is called Family as Celestial Body, and she'll be there along with Jonas Lamb next Tuesday. Now, I'm curious about this Finishing Line Press. So, because it's always interesting to me how folks in Juneau, without access to maybe book fairs or agency conferences or things like that, how do you go about the process of getting something like this published?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think typically folks set a goal to maybe place half of the poems in their collection to publish those individually in journals elsewhere before they feel like they've got the confidence that there's a demand for these poems for this work. And yeah, I mean, typically a lot of small publishers have open submission periods where you can submit a manuscript. There's a lot of first book prizes out there from publishers who will encourage up and coming writers to submit their work. And I have learned that there's all sorts of different types of presses, and small presses are a dying thing in this world right now. So it's been really eye-opening to kind of learn quite a bit about the publication process, about the varying levels of like editorial and marketing support that you might get from different presses. And yeah, I think going forward, it'll be something that a lot of writers will try to attend something called AWP, the Associated Writing Professionals. It's a professional association of professional writers, but then also people that teach writing. So it's also got that kind of educational scope. But they typically throw a huge book fair, and that's an annual event. I think it was in Baltimore recently, but it was in Seattle a couple years ago. So a lot of folks do.
I see. Okay. Cool. Well, this is called read just one of the advanced praises for you for this book for folks. Lamb's debut is so infused with the lyrical sensations of the domestic, of ancestry, of fatherhood and interaction with the land that while reading, one gets the feeling this collection might spout wings and fly away. With each poem more stunning than the last, Lamb proves himself to be a master poet and storyteller. That was from Raquel Vasquez Gilliland, author of Witch of Wild Things and Dirt and Honey. Sorry if I butchered her name there.
No, it's pretty good.
That's high praise.
Yeah. Having reach out to folks Elle was a classmate of mine at the UAA program, so I was a little less terrified to reach out to her.
Right.
Though she's a super established author. She's got several novels out. She writes YA and adult fiction, and she's just blowing up. But I reached out to another mentor, and I said, "How do you do this? Who do you ask?" And she gave me some really good advice. She said, I recommend, have a few safeguards where you reach out to some folks that but that you hope will also be, bluntly honest with you and not just fluff your book, Right. But she also suggested reaching out to some poets that you admire that you don't know, just kind of a cold call, reach out and see what happens. And I did that for two in particular, and the first person got back to me and said, "I'd really love to. I'm pretty overcommitted, but I'd love to get my hands on your book when it's available." And that kind of started a conversation, which has continued, and I'm grateful for that. And,
that's awesome.
And then the other contact, Umarak Huey, who has written this incredible book called Dad Jokes from Late in the Patriarchy.
Right.
I came across one of his poems when I was writing my master's thesis. The critical component of my master's thesis was this idea of how parenting is portrayed in poetry, and kind of how it is done sometimes in this kind of sentimental or manipulative type way that can be like kind of icky feeling, but then also this incredible array of work that portrays parenting or parents like in a pretty brutally honest light, for all the warts and flaws that we have as humans and struggling to figure out how to operate these small humans. And he got right back to me and wrote an amazing piece of praise. So it's terrifying, but it's rewarding if you establish a new contact or just somebody whose work you'll kind of continue to follow. And I think I forgot to mention with that first contact, I found out that he let me know. He said, I just actually had to ask, I asked my hero for a blurb for my new book, and I hadn't realized that he had a new book coming. So I was super fired up for that.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yep.
And so she mentioned in her praise there, some of the themes: fatherhood, ancestry, interaction with the land. So let's begin with the title, What Turtle Blood Tastes Like. That's such an intriguing title. Where does that come from?
So it's the title of one of the poems in the collection, and it's a poem that kind of reflects on, a childhood moment, kind of a dark childhood moment of that I've lived with and revisited, for years through writing, but a really vivid memory that'll stick with me for forever. And I've and as the title of the book, I just get so many people saying, what does it taste like? I get all these weird random hits on my website because I think people are really wanting to buy turtle blood or something like that for a ritual
they just Google
or something.
It and they end up on your site.
Yeah. So someone said recently, what does turtle blood taste like? And I said, well, it tastes like iron and rust in the back of your mouth. And so it's I think you talked about like the challenge of kind of putting together a collection, and when I was doing that, I had a couple other pieces that I felt should be kind of forefronted up in the first poem in the book, and other titles, and my mentor, my thesis advisor that year, Erin Coughlin Hollowell, she was an Alaskan poet and runs that Kachemak Bay Writers Conference these days. And she said, "No, you gotta go with that."
It's so intriguing. Yeah. It really is. It's like a great title for a book. So we're talking with Jonas Lamb about his poetry book, which debuts today, What Turtle Blood Tastes Like. He's going to be doing a book launch event next week at Spice Cafe on September 16th. That's a Tuesday from 6 to 8 p.m. He'll be there with Patty Ware, author, and also moderator Katie Bosler. Perhaps we could hear a couple of the poems, Jonas. I don't know if you've selected some specifically for us today, but we'd love to hear a few of them.
Sure, yeah, I've got a couple selected, and I hate to do it, but I'm probably going to withhold the what turtle blood tastes like. The intrigue is just too much.
Good.
Yeah,
Are you going to read that on Tuesday, do you think?
I'm going to read that on Tuesday,
to, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I've got a couple selected.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. This first piece is that ancient one I spoke of. It's called Lilybud. This path salmonberry tangle and thorn. In the shade grow chocolate lilies, Fritillaria affinis. Lance-like leaf whorls and speckled tepals drip last night's rain. I remember the midwife tell me, the cervix is like a flower. Like this fetid wildflower, I wondered. I sit down on the path beside this lily, beside this greening ground, and I sip tea of steeped swollen flowers, mouth full of mint and clouds, of hot breath, and I billow it onto this bowed brown bud. If her cervix is like these lilies, today our baby will come.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, I can imagine what some of that is about, but that's great. Do you want to say anything about that?
He was born pretty soon after that, and I think for me that piece was I think it really like changed when I allowed myself to kind of bring the voice of the midwife in. It was this interesting time when all of a sudden I felt like I'm so out of my league. I need all the help I can get. I need an for me. It really helped ground me and, gonna be okay.
Yeah. This is gonna
Chocolate lilies kind of in the springtime. It's, they're a stinky little flower, but they'll always hold a place in my heart. Yeah.
They mean something to you.
Absolutely.
That's really good. Okay, let's hear something else. And this, by the way, you can hit up jonaslambpoetry.com to find out more, figure out how you could get a copy of the book if you're interested. And probably he has details on there about next Tuesday's event as well. But let's hear something else.
Sure. All right. All right. This next piece is called "You Saw Me," and before I read this, I always kind of want to share with folks. I heard Ted Kooser, who is the U.S. Poet Laureate, maybe in the early '90s, and he syndicated a column all across the AP newspapers just to try to get more people thinking about poetry or talking about poetry, or at least less scared of poetry. And he had this line that said, anybody can write a poem that nobody can understand. And I've taken that to heart in terms of trying to write poetry that's accessible. It's themes that are universal or at least relatable, and the language isn't too challenging. Hopefully.
Esoteric or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right. This piece is called "You Saw Me." I was a tide pool sculpin, a scurrying blur among slippery stones, hungry for the world of light beyond the barnacle and bladder rack. I was a spined, maligned, and typically tossed back fish, aching for some sharp pierce. A glimpse beyond fin and gill, and with my parietal eye I sensed you were a heron, walking on water, legs like fragile piers, golden eye scanning the shallows. The tufted feathers at your throat alive like surf. Stealth and slack tide. I might be murk in the blurry margins, plant or mud or rock. Somehow, you saw me for the fish I was, ready for you and your spearing beak to target the push of my heart, carry me out of this shallow world. This is all I longed for when I was a tide pool sculpin.
I love that. That's so good. That's great, Jonas. Wow, that's really amazing. Do you feel like that now that you've tackled this sort of first book of poetry and getting it published and everything, will you go through the process again?
Absolutely. Yeah. I really hope to have something in the hopper when this one came out. But there's some work out there under review, and there's a new manuscript in the process. So
awesome.
Definitely I'm excited to read poems from this book, but also a lot of the poems from this book feel, some of them are really close to my heart. Some of them feel like I've just whipped them into shape over the last 10 years. So
right.
I'm excited to read some new work also on Tuesday.
Work,
yeah.
Oh, so on Tuesday you'll read some new stuff too?
Yeah.
Okay, that isn't in the book.
That's right.
Awesome. We give people a tease for the future. That's excellent. It's so good. Do you have one more short one we might do?
Sure thing. Let's see.
If you got one more that I would love to go out with.
All right.
Yeah.
This one's called "Keeping Control." Son, our human bodies are time bombs. All around us, family, friends, detonating. Even our own body bombs have years left on the clock, but we are full of destructive potential and shrapnel. Hope in God has been scientifically proven to be less effective than a placebo in the control group. Even less effective against shrapnel, though I keep this from you. No one is in control. I appreciate your belief in me as your father, but believe me when I tell you, my control over you is tenuous. I am in complete control of very little other than the dog or cat, and really, I rarely have any control of them, or myself for that matter. After all, who wants to be in control? Control is a cage for responsibility, though I keep this from you. Some days, I hear my own time bomb ticking furiously. I lose track of time every day. Responsibility is always knowing what day it is when your child asks. Time management is an essential survival skill, but will do very little to keep the time in the bomb managed. Keep it from marching on, expiring. To explode is to relinquish control. I worry constantly about exploding, so I feign control, though I keep this from you. I hope I'm not in the control group. This look on my face is me showing you what control should look like.
Excellent. Jonas Lamb, What Turtle Blood Tastes Like, out today from Finishing Line Press. You can go to jonaslambpoetry.com to learn more. And next Tuesday, he'll be teaming up with Patty Ware, another author, and they will be doing a book launch event on Tuesday, 9/16, which is September 16th at Spice Cafe from 6 to 8 p.m. They'll read some work from this book and future work, and as well as talk with Katie Bosler, moderating, talking about craft themes and motivations, and in more in-depth conversation, which is really cool. So Jonas, Gunnar for being here, really appreciate it. Best of luck with the launch of the book.
Thanks, Boston. Gunnar.
Okay, you're listening to Juneau Afternoon on KTOO. Now it's this week's Our Living Lands from Native Voice One.
This is Our Living Lands, and I'm Antonia Gonzalez. Walrus is a key subsistence food for indigenous communities in Alaska's North Slope, but climate change has shifted walrus habits. Hunters and researchers are working to understand these changes and document traditional knowledge. The Alaska Desk's Ayona Neidem reports on the collaboration.
Growing up, Robert Kaumaluk Lisburn remembers walruses starting to beach near Point Lay in large numbers. It was always an exciting time for local hunters, but he says a stream of boats and gunfire startled the animals, causing them to rush to water and crush some of the young pups. Since then, Lisburn says hunting practices have changed.
When they first started coming, everyone was hunting them. So we came together and we said, we got to find a better way to hunt these animals without causing the stampede.
Lisburn is a hunter and a member of the North Slope Borough Fish and Game Management Committee. He says Point Lay residents now try to hunt walruses when there are only a few of them on the beach. They also ask pilots and mariners to avoid flying too low or boating too fast near the animals during haul-out. Lisburn will share his knowledge about walruses with the U.S. Geological Survey and the University of Alaska Museum of the North later this summer. The project will include a walrus drone survey and interviews with local hunters who rely on them for subsistence. The information could also shed light on local climate change effects. Eduard Kirgitagin-Zdor is an anthropology postdoctoral fellow at the University of Alaska Fairbanks who will help with the interviews. He says the goal is to document Inupiaq knowledge about walrus haul-outs, the conditions of the animals, and what can be done to preserve them.
This is about how to help local community to deal with modern challenges, including climate change.
Zdor is a Chukchi indigenous leader, originally from Chukotka in eastern Russia, where walrus is also a traditional subsistence resource. He also researched and advocated for subsistence hunting back home. Zdor moved to the U.S. 10 years ago to study at UIF. Walrus research is one of many areas where Russian and American scientists, as well as indigenous experts, used to work together. Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022 put a strain on the relationship between the countries and on research collaborations. Zdor says he would like this project to be a link between Chukotka and Alaska.
This is what we are dreaming about. Me and people like me here in Alaska and in Russia as well, my fellow local villagers, of course we are. It was a long time ago, almost 30 years ago, when the Soviet Union collapsed, and we just realized that we are not alone here in Arctic. Our neighbors are really the same.
In Alaska's Arctic, female walruses traditionally rest on sea ice, but that trend has been shifting. That's according to Anthony Fishback, a wildlife biologist with USGS who has been leading walrus population surveys.
After 2007, things really changed where sea ice would dissipate in almost all years.
Fishback says that now the vast majority of female and young animals from the Pacific walrus population, which means tens of thousands of them, come to Point Lay beaches and feed for several weeks before migrating over to Russia.
And that was a fundamental change in their behavior.
Lisburn has been working with walrus biologists, making sure they follow safety protocols during regular surveys and don't harm the animals.
We consistently hunt these animals, and it's a part of who we are. We've been working together, Native Village of Point Lay and the walrus biologists. We're protecting the animals.
For Lisburn, the opportunity to exchange walrus knowledge with Zdor from Chukotka is exciting.
They get more walrus than we do on our beaches on Russia side. They get the double amount. So it's going to be interesting to work with Edward and learn from him too. And we're going to be learning from each other, actually.
He says that some walruses are slowly starting to approach Point Lay right now, though it's still unclear whether there will be a massive coastal haulout this year. Zdor says it will take several years to analyze the interviews and share the final narrative with the village. It can be helpful for working with wildlife management agencies, he says. After the project is done, Zdor says he hopes Lisburn will continue documenting local knowledge. In Anchorage, I am Alona Naiden.
Tune in next week for more stories about how climate change affects tribal communities. I'm Antonia Gonzalez for Our Living Lands, a collaboration of Koahnic Broadcast Corporation, Native Public Media, and the Mountain West News Bureau.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.
Support for Juneau Afternoon comes from Alaska Airlines Club 49. Membership information available at club49hub.com.
Hanson Gress, ka eat with the shuyi we kashuk ayitin. Jin kat ka ke jin tak kanakaya haanikak gunilchish.
You're listening to KTOO's Tlingit Word of the Week. This week's word comes from Keishi Besikuli. The word this week is teeth.
Teeth.
That means chum or dog salmon. And here's a sentence.
Teeth to this lind.
Dog salmon too. They swim to Teslin in the fall. Let's hear it again.
Teeth.
Chum or dog salmon. Gunash Jish to Chune Lance Twitchell, Goldbelt Heritage Foundation, and the University of Alaska Southeast for this audio.
Keishi Besikuli is Kokhetan and a child of a Yenyedi man. She is from Daislin and grew up spending time in Teslin. She earned a master's degree in Indigenous Languages and Linguistics from Simon Fraser University and interviewed many speakers for the Hashagun language series. She is currently translating projects for the children of the Taku Society.
Tune in next week for another Tlingit Word of the Week from KTOO.
You are listening to community-supported Juneau Afternoon on KTOO at 104.3 Juneau, 91.7 Juneau Auk Bay, and online at ktoo.org. I'm your host, Boston Christopher. You can also join us on our live stream for a behind-the-scenes look here in the studio on KTOO's YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram pages. And, of course, you can leave a comment or ask a question. I might see it there's a little chat button here I can see. Hopefully I would see it if you do say something, so we appreciate that. September is Recovery Month, and the Juneau Reentry Coalition is sponsoring a variety of events this month. They've already done a few things, but continuing forward, there's a trash pickup this Saturday, there's a film festival that's coming for the next couple Mondays, and a recovery picnic at Twin Lakes. It has multiple ways this month to connect and learn. And here to share more with me today are Terry Tibbett, and Rob Fetter and Tim Hunt. Gunath Chish for you all being here today. Welcome back, Terry Wasiati. How are you?
Thank you. I'm just doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, and you've done so much for the Reentry Coalition. You're a member of the Reentry Coalition, and so really appreciate you being here. Tim Hunt, will you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Yes, my name is Tim Hunt. I'm the coordinator of the Juneau Reentry Coalition, and I'm excited to be here to talk about our Recovery Month events.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Rob, will you introduce yourself for us?
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm a community member of the Reentry Coalition. My value really comes from lived experience. I'm a person with lived experience in long-term recovery.
Okay, great. Well, it's great to have you here. Gunachish for being here today.
Thank you.
And I heard a little tease we're going to talk about in a little bit, but apparently he's going to be cooking up some good stuff at the picnic. So we'll get there. Tim, can you just give me a sense of, just remind folks what the Juneau Reentry Coalition is?
Sure. The coalition is a group of individuals and organizations that work to support justice-involved Alaskans before, during, and after incarceration to reduce the likelihood that they will recidivate and go back into the criminal justice system.
Okay.
So it's beneficial for all of society if these folks get the help they need so that they can be successful outside.
And beyond the events that are around Recovery Month, and I know we were talking about Recovery Month the last time you were on, Terry, and recovery can be from so many things. It could be from cancer, it could be from drug addiction, it could be from so many things, but it is Recovery Month as a whole, but the Reentry Coalition focuses on this. What do you do outside of these events during the year? Are there groups? Are there other events that you sponsor?
Yes, we focus on a lot of things because justice-involved individuals can have a lot of issues that need to be addressed in order to hopefully make them more stable and be productive outside of incarceration. So we are connected to a lot of organizations who provide services that can be beneficial to these people.
You partner with different organizations in town and
correct.
things like that.
That's
okay.
correct.
Yeah, Terry.
And we also do provide, we put on a reentry simulation, which brings people, policymakers and department people and regular people to kind of spend an afternoon learning what it's like to get out of prison without very many resources. It's a simulation. It's a national model, and we put one on once a year in January. And we also put on we have a holiday potluck every Christmas.
Oh, nice.
And we invite everybody who wants to come, recovery people getting out of prison, people who want a nice dinner, and we do that. We also provide we have some funding to provide some case management to help people who are transitioning out, and we also help with housing people that are getting out. We have a number of hats and a number of activities that we work on throughout the year.
Rob, maybe you could speak to your experience with the Reentry Coalition. How did you get involved? What the experience has been like for you?
Yes, I would just reiterate what Terry was saying, is that there's outside of our regular meetings, there's a lot of networking that goes on. So in my experience, I'm coming up on, I think it's like 6 years in sobriety now. And
congratulations.
Thank you. So the Reentry Coalition and all of its partners, it was very helpful for me coming out of prison, and knowing that in this community, these things were available to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, they weren't always like a flyer on the desk. I had to go out and search for them. I wish the community would come together and make it a little bit stronger. It can always be better, Mm-hmm. But the Reentry Coalition provided me a lot of things, and their connections with job service, with mental health stuff, with JAMI, with all of our connections that we have. It's just, if I could say anything about the coalition, that it's just that the community here is super great for the things that we do for the community. It's for me especially because I was going nowhere growing up, and I got into a lot of things and addiction and I came out of that, and the Reentry Coalition and its partners helped me. Sent me off to school. I went and got retrained. JAMI and other members of the coalition got me involved. They got $22,000 covered for me for schooling. Oh, and wow. So I changed my whole life, and I changed my whole career, and that afforded me the stability I needed to. Now I wouldn't say extremely successful, but I'm a lot more successful than I was before.
So when you were you in prison here at Lemon Creek?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just curious how the process works. Does somebody there talk to you about the potential for being part of the Reentry Coalition as you're about to exit, let's say?
Well,
that is available.
Yeah, it is. I just know that at a certain point in my life, I said, this has got to stop.
Right.
And I started reaching, trying to find something.
So you were looking for it.
Oh, yeah. I was, this is enough for me. I'm done. I'm tapping out. And then the work really began after prison. When I walked out the door, that's when it really began. So it was, I went through the whole 9 yards, the transitional living, the treatment, and then the different agencies in town. And I have to commend the people in this community. They really do step up and help. They're willing to help. So I probably wouldn't be where I'm at without the coalition and its partners.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because I can imagine, well, I could only imagine, really, like the idea of getting out with, what do they give you? They give you your stuff that you had, and then you're like, okay, see ya.
Yeah.
And then you go, what do I do now, right? And as Tim's talking about, like the idea of, and we've seen this, like what's the word you used? Recidivate, like. Because there maybe isn't a resource available to folks, right? And so it's easy to fall back into meeting with that old friend that was not good for you, or whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And so is that how it works, Tim? Does the coalition work to let the members know who might be, like prisoners know about this program so that they could take part of it when they get out?
The Reentry Coalition coordinator, that's who you want to talk about.
Okay.
Yes, we do in-reach, meaning we try to get inside the prison to get folks who are in the process of being released to start thinking about the things that they're going to need once they get out. So, and then once they're out, then we hopefully connect them to the resources, housing, transportation, counseling, etc., to provide some stability and hopefully, maybe, find a job and, just to be successful.
Absolutely. And Terry, it's a coalition, right? So that means that there are partners involved. Can you talk about a few of the partners that are involved in the coalition? Then we'll get to these events.
Well, the two main partners are JAMI Health and Wellness, who is the fiscal agent for the coalition.
Okay.
The Alaska Mental Health Trust provides the funding for the coalition for Tim's position and for a lot of the activities of the coalition. So the Mental Health Trust is a partner. The Department of Health is a partner because they provide the funding for the case manager who goes into the prison. And that case manager, they have a caseload. They're working with people before they are released, and then when they're released, and then up to 6 months after they're released. So it's a program, and it worked. We have lots of partners, and there's lots of funding sources, and everybody's sort of coming together to make it happen. DOC is a huge partner. They provide a lot of support to allow us to go in, and we have regular meetings with DOC to make sure that the left hand and the right hand knows what's going on.
Absolutely,
it's a very coordinated, I'd say a collaborative effort.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. Well, and part of the thing that you do is this Recovery Month activities. I'm going to pull up the calendar for those who might be on the live stream. The art show is still running down at Alaska Robotics. That was on First Friday. That's when Terry was here last to talk about that show for First Friday opening. But the rest of the events that you see here and that we're going to talk about now, you can be a part of. Tomorrow, there's an Adopt a Highway community trash pickup at mile 4 to 5 on North Douglas Highway, so you could do that tomorrow. And what time is that going to be at?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Starts at 10 a.m. Probably take a little bit of time, not too long, and that's a great way to get involved. But then we have these really cool, this Recovery Film Fest, which is a couple of movies that are coming the following 2 Mondays. So September 15th at 5:30 p.m. These are both going to be at the Gold Town. There's a movie called Generation Found. Who wants to tell me about this movie, Generation Found? Terry, tell me.
So Generation Found, which is happening at the Gold Town Monday, starting at 5:30, it's a film about a community in Texas that had a real big addiction problem among youth, high schoolers, and a bunch of different a bunch of different individuals came together, and they included musicians, sports people, counselors, families, church leaders, oil industry executives, a whole group of people came together and basically worked with the youth to create a sober high school and a sober environment. There's some treatment involved. There's a whole bunch of stuff, and that community really, really addressed their youth addiction problem and made it go way down by doing these activities within their community. So this film is a documentary about that group, and it's called Generation Found.
And I'm sure it's probably inspiring, right? Is it inspiring, and it might get people thinking about what we could do here in Juneau?
Exactly. Yeah. That's always a good hope. You want to duplicate what works in other places too.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you learn from example, right? You steal from the best.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so that's really good. And then that's on Monday, September 15th, and then the following Monday on the 22nd. You're doing another film, same time, 5:30, called The Anonymous People. What's that all about?
Well, The Anonymous People is another documentary film that explores the lives of Americans living in long-term recovery. It's filmed all over the United States. It highlights the stigma around addiction. People tell their personal stories. There's a lot of dialogue about kind of the challenges that people have, but also the successes that they have and what helped them become or what helped them be successful. It aims to expand public perceptions and encourage people in recovery to step forward and be counted and get their voice out there. So again, The Anonymous People, you can Google any of these and watch the trailers. They're highly worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, these are both going to be at the Gold Town the following 2 Mondays, September 15th and September 22nd. That's really cool. And then this is a really cool event on Saturday, September 20th, so not tomorrow, but the following Saturday. There's the recovery picnic at Twin Lakes. Who wants to tell me a little bit about that? Tim, Rob? She points at you, Rob.
Twin Lakes, the recovery picnic, be a lot of our people there. Like to see a lot of people out there too. That'd be great. Apparently, the tribe has voted, and I will be assisting. I believe someone from JYC with the grilling or something. Yeah. Anyway, it should be a great time. I would encourage everybody to come out.
Wait, hold on a second, Rob.
Okay.
Do you have experience grilling?
I could cook. Yeah.
We're gonna
I can cook a little something.
All right. Yeah, because I'm figuring it's going to be probably like
burgers and hot dogs.
Sure.
And things
potato
like that.
salad.
Yeah, right.
I'm not making filet mignon out there.
There's also going to be croquet and horseshoes.
Okay.
Trying to get some live music, but if not, there'll be good background music. The Johnson Youth Center, which Rob just mentioned, is our juvenile detention center here, and juvenile detention and treatment center here in Juneau. And there are a couple of students, or youth, I guess I should call them, that have permission to leave. They have like day pass, permission.
Right.
So they're gonna come, and Johnson Youth Center is not donating, but allowing us to use their grill. So they're going to be sending youth and staff, and there's going to be a lot of room for families and people who are in recovery who want a place to go that's alcohol free. It's during the day. Again, it starts at 11 in the morning, and we're going to go till 2. We'll go longer if it's popular, but definitely the thing to do will be the croquet and the horseshoes and the grilling and the eating.
And there's no charge to attend, right?
None of these cost.
And the films don't cost anything either. We should mention that, yeah. And who is invited to come to the picnic on Saturday?
Yeah, everyone, please, everyone, yeah.
Everyone come by. Yeah, make it a real community event.
For sure. And then not just all what Terry was saying, but there's a lot of networking going on. So if you're having trouble with mental health issues or some recovery stuff, that's really important to network and get together with other like people.
Yeah.
So it just makes you stronger. So I'll be there if you want to come out there and chat with me. I could tell you some of my secrets and how I've navigated. That's kind of my mission in life now, that with the long-term recovery and where I'm at right now is to share the gift that I received. And that's what I do with the Reentry Coalition. So,
Yeah, because I feel like, we talk about this in a variety of things. When Jamie's been on the show a bunch of times, and it's really awesome. And the idea that, many of the programs and the support groups and the things they do, these events, it's really to let folks know that they're not alone in their journey, right? Yeah, and that's really fantastic. And that then, this is amazing to me, because then you're passing that on, right? You had help, and now you want to help others.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like it's a burning desire. It's really healing for me as well. So it's just, Juneau's done a lot for me. I've been here since I was young, and went through a lot of struggle. But I'm here now, and I'm here to help. And if you want to come join us at the picnic, I'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. That's really cool. And Tim, I want to talk to you just a little bit more about, as Terry's taking pictures in the studio, getting those behind-the-scenes images for the Instagram. And I should mention, you can find out everything about this coalition at JuneauReentry.org. There's going to be a lot of information there. I'm sure you also have Facebook events and all the different socials that you can find for Juneau Reentry Coalition. But go to their website, JuneauReentry.org. But Tim, I want to talk about your position just a little bit more, because it fascinates me. So how did you get to working in this position? You're the coordinator?
I am the coordinator.
Okay, and what does that entail?
Well, I have a background working with juveniles in detention centers. I also have a background in education in addictions counseling.
Okay.
So I kind of, use a lot of the education and the experience that I have in the past to coordinate this coalition of various individuals, kind of from all walks of life. It can be kind of like herding cats sometimes, because there are a lot of personalities, and I'm also new to Juneau, so I'm really learning who works where and who does what, So, but it's exciting, and I'm really excited to take part in these events and meet people that I haven't met yet. So,
where did you come from?
I'm from Alabama. We're actually moving up here from Alabama.
Oh, so, excellent. Well, welcome to Juneau.
Thank you. Very excited.
So how long have you been with the coalition then?
July the 1st.
Oh, so you're brand new.
Yes.
Whoa, okay. So we got to come out to these events and meet Tim Hunt, who you want to meet.
Please do.
That's really cool. And how many, because you describe it as members of the coalition, right, in terms of the Reentry Coalition. How many members are there? Do we know?
Well, we have a steering team, which is about 16 people.
Right.
Who there's some pretty regular people who show up every month to the steering team meetings, who make the decisions. It's a we have to make financial decisions, we make program decisions, that sort of stuff. So those steering team members, that involves St. Vincent de Paul, the Juneau Job Center, the Public Defender Agency, GHS, Gatineau Human Services, JAMI Health and Wellness.
Me.
Well, and then all the individuals,
well, that's
too.
what I'm talking about, too. How many individuals?
So there's lots of individuals, too. There are people with lived experience. I don't want to name names, but just,
right.
There's several people who are with lived experience on the steering.
Who want to be able to help and give back like Rob is. And thanks for coming on the air and talking about it openly, Rob. I really appreciate that.
So that's a steering team. But then we have a greater membership of about 100 people or something. People who we...
Maybe like 150 or so.
Yeah, who we just let know what's happening and that kind of thing. So,
cool.
It's...
And we also connect with the other reentry people in Anchorage and Matsu.
Yes.
Right.
Statewide.
That's
great.
That's something else people could Google is AK Reentry to get to the Alaska Reentry Partnership, which is the coalition of reentry coalitions. We're Juneau, but there's also Anchorage, Fairbanks, Kenai, Nome, Kodiak, Ketchikan, Matsu. And all those coalitions, reentry coalitions, we all get together once a month and left hand, right hand, and share resources and stuff.
That's so
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
It's the Juneau Reentry Coalition. You can go to juneaureentry.org. They have a couple events. There's an Adopt a Highway program tomorrow on mile 4 to 5 on North Douglas Highway. Then 2 films coming up at the Gold Town on the following 2 Mondays, September 15th and September 22nd. And then on Saturday, September 20th, there's the Recovery Picnic out at Twin Lakes from 11 to 1 p.m. Go
till
2 p.m. What did I say? 1 p.m. 2 p.m. 11 to 2 p.m. Go have some of Rob's burgers. He promises not to burn yours. I really appreciate Rob.
No, it's too much pressure.
Rob Fetter, Tim Munt, Terry Tibbett, thanks for coming in today and sharing with us about all these events. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Boston. You're great. Thank you.
Here's a little Buddy Tabor, Blinding Flash of Light, as we go out today here on Juneau Afternoon.
The 60s came, the 60s went, our dreams of peace and love were spent. The right attacked, the left had died, the good Samaritan crucified. Jesus said to love your neighbor, but the rich got richer, wouldn't do you no favor. Now baby, ain't living right. Well, I'll be one of that blinding flashing lights. Ronald Reagan headed to college, he took a chainsaw, clear-cut the trees, sold our birthright to the Japanese. All we got was computers and TVs, surfing on the internet, the things you've never found out yet. Drowned in the age of information, whistles with ill from a whole damn nation. Baby, ain't living right. Well, I'll be one of that blinding flashing light. Justice ain't blind, she can see the daylight of reality. How much a lawyer costs and the rich walk free. Ask OJ if they don't believe you can get away with murder if you're a billionaire. When you got a lot of money, honey, nobody cares. Now baby, ain't living right. Well, I'll be one of that blinding flashing light. This country's starting to remind me of pre-World War Germany. Feel the hate, the fear, no repentance. Got no mercy, got no tears. Lincoln rolls over in his grave if he could see these Republican senators today. Now baby, ain't living right. Well, I'll be one of that blinding flashing light. They want to turn this country into Bosnia. NRA right-wing gun freaks take the blood of our precious children, turn around and spill it into the street. Masturbating with their gun while they're reading Soldier of Fortune. Now baby, ain't living right. Well, I'll be one of that blinding flashing lights. The Russians sell nuclear arms to angry Islamic states. You turn around and tell me that there's hope. You spin back around and say it's not too late. Standing in the shadow of Armageddon, judgment's waiting at the gates of heaven. Now baby, ain't living right. Well, I'll be one of that blinding flashing light.
That's going to do it for today's Juneau Afternoon. We air Wednesday through Friday at 3 p.m. right here on KTO Juneau 104.3 and KAUK Juneau Ock Bay 91.7. You can find the show online at kto.org/Juneau Afternoon. You can also find live stream archives over at KTO's YouTube page. Our theme music is by Indian Agent. Programming support comes from listeners and viewers like you and Alaska Airlines, Club 49, Hanson Gress, and Heritage Coffee Roasting Company. I'm Boston Christopher, producer and host of the program, with help today from Aaron Tripp. Gunneth Cheesh, have a fantastic Juneau weekend.
So you take off for the shopping malls. Jesus is yelling at you in the halls. Now baby, you ain't living right. And you just maxed out your credit card last night. I'm an aging hippie in a trailer park where the streets are mean. You don't go out after dark. The kids out back are smoking crack. You don't ever make no eye contact. All God's children are carrying a gun. You better pick up your tennis shoes. You better run now, baby. You ain't living right.